Hi, my friends. Welcome. Super excited to be here today. Happy Friday, everybody. Come on in. Welcome. We are streaming live today on Facebook, Facebook, YouTube, as well as LinkedIn. So wonderful to see all of you. Come on in. I'll give it a couple minutes so people can join us. As you're coming in, go ahead and let us know where you're from, what city in the world you're from, where you're from. We're here in Niagara Falls. And joining me today will also be my partner in crime here, Deepta Rayner. Deepta, are you there?
Hi, Crystal. Good morning and happy Friday. How are
Happy
you?
Friday. Great. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you.
Awesome. We're getting pretty good at this Friday morning live type of thing, aren't we?
Yeah, it's great.
It's our habit now, my friends. So we've been coming to you for this is our third week, I think, 3 weeks
I
in a
think
row
so.
now, 11 a.m. on Fridays. And so, just a great time on a Friday because a lot of people, we're kind of half in, half out. Sometimes people love, book meetings back to back on Fridays, and other times we don't. So we thought this would be a really great time to just connect with our audience and chat a little bit about some of the things that are really most important to you. We've had an opportunity to do some really, really deep dive conversations, with some of our clients and potential clients, and we've identified a couple of things. And so today we're gonna dive into it. Deepta, you want to share our topic for today?
Yeah, it's about getting more done in 12 weeks than you would all year.
Right? Isn't that like such a? Can you just how amazing would it be to get more done in 12 weeks than your entire year? Now, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I was going to say it's pretty hard to get a whole year into 12 weeks, but we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll give everybody a couple of moments to come on, join us. And as you're joining in, my friends, go ahead and let us know if you're watching this live or on the replay. If you're watching it live, let's do hashtag CX Live. And if you're watching this on the replay, please go ahead and say hashtag CX Replay. And hey, we would love your questions, your comments as we're going through this today. So please go ahead and share. Let us know where you're from, what platform you're watching from. That would be great as well. So come on in. We'll give everybody just a couple moments. We're going to be diving into how to get more done in 12 weeks than you have all year. All right, Deepta, shall we dive in?
Let's dive in, Crystal.
Perfect.
So, what does it take? Where do you start? Where do you start to get more done in 12 weeks than in 1 year?
Yeah, it's one of the challenges I think would be to really identify first that we have a problem, right? And so we've been talking to so many businesses lately about some of the challenges that they're facing. Oh my gosh, sorry, one moment. We've got Laura is in Colombia right now. How cool is that? We've got somebody from Colombia watching. We are all over the map. I love it. I love it. And Ishween is in Brampton. Fantastic. Okay, so when we were talking to a lot of our clients, potential clients, people that are just interested in finding out more about customer experience design, what we're noticing is that, one of the biggest challenges is that they've got great intentions, but to actually execute a lot of that, whether it's CX stuff, whether it's diversity and inclusion things that they want to implement, whether it's, just new product design, hiring top talent, a lot of these things people want to do and they know they need to do, but they have a hard time kind of getting strategic around it. Would you agree? Like, what are your thoughts on that, Deepta?
Absolutely. And I think that's especially true for small businesses, small, medium-sized businesses, where often it's the owner and the leadership team wearing multiple hats to get things done.
Yeah, it's the biggest pain point we find. It's like, oh, we started talking about it in January. My friends, it's September. Like, it's September. When did September come around? Like, it's September 10th today. I felt like usually like back to school day, it feels like the 1st of September, but like it's not. It's usually like the 4th or 5th. I mean, it's September 10th. Time goes by so quickly, and so many of our colleagues in business, especially small business, their intention is to hire more people, hire the right people, train people. In diversity inclusion, it's such a deep topic that we're diving into lately. it's hard to believe that it's already been almost 2 years since it became, a global issue, a global recognized issue. And so, time goes by so quickly. And unless we can start getting strategic around these things, around specific elements of business that we really need to execute and really that are going to benefit your business, that's where we start to kind of lose traction, right?
Mhm.
And what I think is interesting, Deepta, about it is that, if we have a sales plan or we have a marketing plan, would you agree that that's kind of executed like super quick?
Yes, absolutely, for sure.
And so, like, when a sales or marketing plan is implemented, there's deadlines, there's times, there's efficiencies that are like, I mean, how many times, Deepta, do we do that on the fly, right? Like,
All the time.
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I think it's all in the plan, though, right?
It's all in the plan, right? It's all in really getting strategic about it. And so, Deepta, I'm sure you've dove into strategic planning in all your in your career. You've done lots of strategic planning. I know we've talked about it many times. And so strategic planning is a common thread that, a lot of small, medium businesses know and use. But what we've done is we've kind of put a 21st century COVID spin on it, I guess you could say, is we've up leveled the typical strategic planning process. And how we've really done that is we've focused on, number one, instead of doing those 3 to 5 year plans, which so many of us were used to, we gotta change it. We can't do a 3 to 5 year plan anymore. We have to do like a 6 to 12 month plan, if that. Some of our clients are actually operating on like a month-to-month plan, right? Because things are changing. And so, like, even one of our associations that I belong to, we've literally had to change this morning for next Monday, and so we had a plan, but we had to pivot, right? The classic pivot. um, and so when we talk about getting strategic, I think a lot of it is about really understanding the scope and the length of your plan. We've kind of dove into this now with our team, but also with others, is that length of the plan is really important. Deep, to tell us a little bit about some of your success and when it comes to strategic planning.
Yeah, I think if for me, it's been really important to focus on what the strategic goals of the organization is overall,
Mm-hmm.
and start with that first. And then you move to whatever team it is that you happen to be leading or working on, right? So if you're in sales, you want to make sure that your strategic goals line up to what the enterprise or company strategic goals are. Everything comes from that sort of top-down look in terms of what is the strategy of the organization. And then from that, the various teams lining up their strategic goals to ensure that the entire organization as a whole is A, on the same page, but B, that everybody's working towards the same goals. That is so, so important. And then when you're starting to work on a specific strategy for a product, for a sales team, for whatever it is within that, within your team, within your group, within that organization, to again make sure that you're lining all of your strategies up that ladder. And that alignment alone can do so much to get the right things done.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's just about getting clear, right? And I think when it comes to small medium businesses, as you mentioned before, the challenge is there's this constant hamster wheel, is that things are changing, especially right now. And so it's like, well, I have to make sure that I've got staff. I've got to make sure that we've got sales coming in. We've got to get payroll done and marketing done, and all of these kind of balls are in the air consistently. And what I would recommend to small medium businesses in particular is, if you don't take the time to plan, the plan will never happen, right? And the goal will never happen. And so what we want to be able to do is take the time with your leadership team, or perhaps depending on the size of your business, perhaps it's your whole team. Our team is relatively small, and so we gathered together as an entire team and really focused on, okay, what are the top 5 big, hairy, audacious goals that we want to conquer in the next 6 to 12 months. And so once you're able to really do what everybody knows as a SWOT analysis, right, where we can identify our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and threats. Once we can really get clear on all of those, and we did this exercise a few months back, about a month back now, and it was great. And we really identified, it was interesting in our group how Deepta and I were looking at things from one lens, and then the other team members were looking at things from a completely different lens, which was so beautiful, and really the beauty of diversity adding to your strategic thinking process. And so once you're able to identify those strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and put the time aside, my friends, put the time aside to actually do this and do this together as a group, as a leadership team, or as a whole team. You want to pick out your top 2, top 3 strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and put them together and kind of map them out. When you have that visual representation, Deepta, of all of those things, you start to get innovative kind of by default, right? You naturally start to get innovative, and you can see how they all align. And so once you've developed that strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and kind of highlighted your top 3 to 5 of them, from there you want to get a little more clarity, and you want to start to understand, what buckets do these fall in? These priorities, or the weaknesses, or the opportunities. I hate to say the word weaknesses, but you know what I mean. But you start to kind of develop these buckets. And so what we want to be able to be left with, and especially if you're doing a shorter term strategic plan, so whether it's a year type of thing or 6 months, I wouldn't suggest more than 3. Like 5 is a lot for a year, but 3 is good, and sometimes even 1. It just depends on the size of your business. But you want to identify kind of those big goals. And so, Deepta, what are some of the goals that you tend to see when we're talking strategic?
Oh, we lost your sound.
There we go. What are some of those big bucket goals that you tend to see, Deepta, when we're working with clients?
Definitely, you almost always around revenue, right? So there's always a target for revenue. There often is a target for some internal work within an organization, right? And I would say third thing that I've seen quite frequently would be how to really engage or connect with customers better.
Yeah. That training piece I find is often, that's our world as well, as training, but we see that often, especially right now. I think some of the priorities we're seeing is, how to stay ahead of the curve. That's one of those priorities that are coming up often. How to implement some processes. So whether it's a CX process, or how to implement a diversity inclusion plan, how to implement those things. Those are coming up as big priorities on strategic plans. But the biggest thing I think we see often is, the leadership team in particular doesn't necessarily always get that training and development that's expected of them. So example, Deepta, we just had a call a couple 2 months ago, I think now actually, but followed up, was that somebody was in charge of implementing diversity inclusion within their organization from a strategic level, like high level. They had to implement a plan it is a medium-sized organization, like pretty large, impactful organization. But that individual wasn't set up for success because they weren't given the tools or the training to really implement it. Right. So that would be one of those things we'd see on a strategic plan, is to be able to give that leadership team that level of the tools to succeed, right? Fill up their toolbox.
Yeah.
And we see that often with customer service as well, right? Where people
That's
are
right.
told to, hey, we want you to make sure that you're providing great level of customer service. And customer service is one of those things where people are, we think because you're friendly, you're providing great service, but there's actual tactical training techniques on being able to provide phenomenal customer service. And has your team or even your leadership team ever gone through customer service training, right? And understands how communication works. And communication is so different now than it was, 2-3 years ago now, or how empathy works, or how to handle things when things go wrong, right? So all of that it's covered kind of under that training bucket. But I think even more than training, it's making sure that you're setting your team up for success. You're setting that leadership team up for success.
So I would say also one key word that you mentioned there, Crystal, was empathy. And that there's so much in that one word, but listening to your team, listening to your customers, listening to your partners is a huge part of really doing a good SWOT analysis, right? And including that feedback in your SWOT analysis, including that feedback in your action plan, right? And so when you have a strategic plan that's done, right, you start to set yourself up with short, medium, and long-term goals. And when you've got those short, medium, and long-term goals, and you're starting to look at what you need to prioritize, I tend to look at it from a people, process, and technology standpoint, right? So are your people set up for success to execute on this plan? Are there processes in place to enable them to do this efficiently and successfully? And then is the technology even available for them to do their jobs well in order to, again, get all of these things done? And when you start to look at how you've set up your strategic plan and those strategic goals and frame it in those three ways, I find it super helpful to really understand whether or not you'll be able to achieve the goals that you've set out for yourself.
Absolutely. And I love how you put it that way, because, oops, I think I'm echoing. Because I think, even deeper into what you're saying, the people, the processes, and the plan is really, do we have the time, money, and resources allotted to be able to do those? Because again, in this scenario that I was talking about, where this particular gentleman, I don't believe he was really set up for success, because he doesn't know the language. He hasn't been trained on all those things that he needs to know to be able to educate others. Time, money, and resources need to be allotted for him to be able to be set up for success, right? What are the tactical things? And one of the tools that we use and that we really like to share with our clients, and hey, if somebody's interested, feel free to tell us in the chat and we'll connect with you, and happy to share some of these templates. Just let us know what you're looking for. But one of the templates that we like to really use when we come out of a strategic plan is a report card system, right? So you can visually see the success and, the wins, the quick wins and the long-term wins, and those baby steps that need to be taken, those tactical things that need to be taken in order to achieve that big, hairy, audacious goal. But it's those little things that really dive in. So even for us, as we were putting together a social media plan, we've got an idea of kind of the social media plan that we've got to do, but there's so many little tactical things that we need to be able to do. The writing of the copy, putting on the different platforms, getting the images and all the reels. My team has made me do a whole bunch of reels lately. And so all that tactical, those little low-hanging fruit things that we need to be able to do, to be able to say, okay, I've done all of these things and I've checked them off, and now I'm getting that much closer to be able to check off that big goal, right?
Yeah.
So the time, money, and resources that I think are really important, that align with what you're saying, is that, if we don't have the processes and we don't have all of the people in place, we have to be willing to invest, right? Either one of those, time, money, or resources, into it.
Absolutely. We have a question from Ishween that a little bit touches on what you've just said. So how do you make sure that the team can keep up with a strategic plan?
Good question, Ishween. Very good question. So for us, we like to we do a daily huddle, and our daily huddle is a really great time to be able to talk about some of those tactical items within the plan. But actually, it's a great question that kind of leads me into one of the processes that we do, which is the 12-week year, which is what today we're really talking about. And so the 12-week year, Ashween, it talks about, if we're going through a year, coming from a retail background as well, usually at the end of that year, right, like the November and December, we really start to analyze our numbers. We really start to be able to say, oh my gosh, like, we're close to our goal, or we're so far away from our goal, or we start to analyze how close we are to that goal, because the end is coming, right? The end of the year is coming, and we want to make sure that we're hitting it. And so I always found that there was this high level sense of urgency near the end of the year. Would you agree? Like in any organization we're working with, right? When we're getting close to the end of the year, they're throwing around discounts and promotions and, hiring some extra team member. We've got this big push, right? There's this big push to be able to try to end the end of the year off with a really great finish. And so what happens is sometimes we'll make it and sometimes we won't, but at least we've given it our best. And so if you think of the mentality of giving that extra push at the end of the year, what happens in January when we set the goal, right? We set the goal in January and we're like, okay, we're going to do it. And by the end of January, if we haven't met the goal, what happens, Deepta, if we haven't met the goal at the end of January?
We'll get it next month.
We'll get it next month, right? We'll get it next month. And then February, okay, then what happens, Deepta, when we don't make it in February?
Well, we'll make it up next month.
Yeah. Or we've
got the rest of the year. We still have all that rest of the year.
Yeah. Right? We still have the rest of the quarter to do it, right? And so at the end of the quarter, you're like, okay, well, it's only one quarter out of 4. And my friends, that's how the year just keeps on going, right? And the urgency only comes in that last, that November and December. And that's really the wrong mentality for us to be able to kind of win in sales and in everything that we're trying to implement. And so the idea of the 12-week year, what is so brilliant about it, and this is a book actually that we it's by Brian Moran, and it's a really fantastic plan, because what he talks about in the book is to say, okay, let's take that concept of the urgency that we have in November and December, and let's bring it up to every 12 weeks. So every single week that you're executing, it's almost like you're executing an entire month. So week 1 is January, week 2 is February, week 3 is March. And so you have that urgency at the end of every month that you might have in the sales world to make your sales goal. You have that urgency every single week. And every 12 weeks, you're able to really, get more done. Ultimately, you get more done. And there's a lot of fantastic frameworks and tools that they share that we're happy to share with you as well. If you're interested, just go ahead and tell us in the chat, and we will send you some information over about it. But really fantastic tools that help you to really focus and stay clear. And so, Ashween, to answer your question, making sure that your team is aligned, number 1 is bringing it up in your daily conversations and your daily huddles. But even, at the end of every week, because each week is now a month, right? So week 1 is like the entire month of January. So to put that little bit of time aside, perhaps half an hour every week, to really follow up on the success would be great. So a couple of things like that, but you have to be able to put the time into it, which is kind of contradictory because we don't have time to implement things. But if everybody has their job, and this is where the report card comes into play, Deepta, where when we are able to identify those tactical things in the report card, we're also able to identify who gets them done. Mm-hmm. And it's not all on Deepta, or it's not all on Crystal, it's not all on one person. It's everybody has their job and their role, and has to execute it and really, has to make sure that it's implemented within a certain time period.
So thank you, Crystal, for all of that. You hit on some really interesting points. I'm going to go back to the Daily Huddle, if you don't mind, for a moment. Yeah. Daily Huddle seems to be resistant resistance point for many leaders. I don't have time for a daily huddle. My team does not have time for a daily huddle. And but we've seen it work, and we know that it works for ourselves.
Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you. There are so many organizations that many that we work with that challenge me on this all the time. Crystal, that's not how our team is. We can't do that. We can't. There's no good time for everybody. It works. And so communication is often one of those biggest challenges for businesses is, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, or, marketing doesn't know what sales is doing. Sales doesn't know what accounting needs. Accounting doesn't know what, if you're in the construction world, architecture needs or building needs, or if you're in a retail world, what does the front line and operations need? There's so many different silos within organizations. And the one thing that your daily huddle does is it brings everybody together for, the idea is to spend 8 minutes working on your 8-hour day. And as a team, you're creating this really great energy for 8 minutes. You're creating a really great sense of urgency within 8 minutes. And ultimately, you're holding yourselves accountable to the things that you said you were going to do yesterday. And, are they done or are they not done? And where are you stuck? Where can we help? How can your team help to support you? But the cool thing is that everybody from every department is present, and you're all executing on all cylinders. And you can avoid the 500 emails that you send each other. What are they called? CYA emails. I think everybody probably knows what I mean by CYA. That email that you send because you just want to make sure it's in writing. You can avoid those because your team is communicating daily together with a really great mindset. And when you're communicating consistently, you don't have to send another email. You can just say, hey, are you available on this day for 15 minutes? Can I book that appointment? Yes, you can. Go ahead. Perfect. Hey, Crystal, can we charge this to the account? Yes. Okay, perfect. Or, hey, Crystal, can we get this done? You know what? That's not going to work this week. Let's push it off for 2 more weeks. And, whatever the case may be. But we're able to action things really quickly. And you'll notice, Deepta, even internally within our team, we don't send very many emails to each other, right? Like, if anything, it's a document that we might need, but we really what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Crystal, as you were talking, I was thinking about some of the larger teams. So even in a medium-sized business, you might have actually quite a big team. And I have to say, I've worked in organizations that are hundreds, even thousands of people, and a 15-minute huddle is possible. And it may take some practice, right? So you might start off with a 20-minute huddle and whittle your way down to a 10-minute huddle. But as you go through the process, you will find greater efficiencies. And also as people get really comfortable with the format, you can do things very quickly. And so I remember being in a room full of, I'm going to say over 20 people. And we were in a 15-minute huddle. And in that time, you had to tell everybody, what you're working on, what your priority is for today, what successes you had yesterday, and sort of get all of that in a room full of 20 to 25 people. And absolutely, same on Zoom, you can do it very quickly once you've developed that rhythm, right? And there's a timer on the screen, right? There's a countdown. So everybody knows, because everyone can see that timer, how much time they really have and how much time they're taking. But it's very quick to then say, this is something we need to address. Let's park that and put it in the parking lot. Let's address it in a separate one-on-one or 2-on-3 or whatever it happens to be. But those huddles are really good at just identifying what are the issues that need to get tackled urgently, and then keep moving on. But those huddles are also great at just understanding what all your counterparts are doing, what their responsibilities are, and how you are working together as a team to achieve those goals that you've aligned to.
Yeah, and how your role actually contributes to their success, right? What you're doing, ultimately you're doing it together. So it's not just about you, but it's about the greater picture. One of the things I love in our huddles is that you're able to and not just ours, but when I see a lot of the companies we work with implement huddles, is that they're able to bring that company vision, mission, and core values top of mind every single day. So it's not just your vision and mission that's on your website or that's on that wall, or even understanding how the core values work, but you're actually able to share with your team how, how you're implementing and how you're actioning your core values every day. And so that's a really great piece of the huddle as well. The other thing with the huddle, I'll share a little huddle success story with you. So one of my the teams that I was working with here in Niagara, I'll give them a little shout out. It's a winery, Konzelman Winery. If you're watching, my friends, I'm so proud of the fact that you guys have kept up the huddles for so long. So, we originally implemented the huddle a few years ago now, probably 4 years ago. COVID kind of messes with my timeline, but it was probably about 4 years ago now. We started implementing the huddle. And there is a lot of pushback. Hey, Crystal, not everybody's in at the same time, or, when is the right time for us to do this? Some people are going to miss the huddle on certain days. And so I said, well, let's give it a try. Hey, one of the things is it's better done than perfect. Let's just start, right? Let's just start, because you start to open up these lines of communication. And so they started, there was a little bit of pushback, but they started to see, success right away. They started to see how great they were communicating right away. They started to see how many emails they were avoiding. They didn't have to send all those emails because they were quick. And they were able to really get things done. And just think about the massive amounts of emails you're sending to different departments and multiple departments every day, especially if you're a large organization, 100 to 300 people. But if you're all in a huddle and there's a good rhythm and a good pace, like, you can just shoot off your answers really quickly and get a lot of stuff checked off your list. And so that's one of those tools that allows you to get more done in 12 weeks than all year round, because you're able to really maximize your efficiencies and time. And the coolest part about the winery, that Konzelman, I was so proud of them. It was during COVID. I had walked into the winery. They had opened up for a couple of weeks in between there, and they're open now. So go visit them. They're great winery here in Niagara, one of the only ones along the lake. But anyways, I popped in to go pick up some peach wine, because that's what they do so well. And I walked in, and it was before the winery opened. So I kind of knocked on the door because I knew there was people there. And wouldn't you know it, they were doing their daily huddle. And I was so ecstatic, because it had been years, right, since we started implementing this. And so they stick to it. I think they're at about 10 minutes maybe. And hey, you got to do what works for you. Don't go past the 20-minute mark. It's got to be like boom, 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 quick. It's not a meeting. It's where everybody's prepared and it runs efficiently. But, years into it, they're still seeing success with this. So I can't even tell you how many meetings it avoids you having to do all these meetings, because instead you're really pointed and strategic about answering the questions that need to get answered, so you can move things forward. So, and it helps you also to get unstuck. Right? So many things are being held up because somebody else has to take action. But if you bring that item to the huddle like 3 days in a row, it'll start to get done. And the person will say, hey, this is why I can't get it done, or this is where I need help. And so you really start to see that how everybody's so connected.
I would say for me, another really useful tool that we use all the time is any platform that gives you instant messaging, right? It gets your head out of your email inbox. Because when you have a quick question that you need answered, instant messaging is the perfect tool to use. I use it not only for work, but even, as a parent with kids in school. WhatsApp is a great tool to remove all the back and forth between parents about, is everyone into the pizza lunch on Friday or no?
Yeah.
Put that in a WhatsApp conversation, right? And get it out of your inbox. And you will thank yourself for it later in terms of just managing all those emails.
Yeah, that's it, right? You want to be able to be efficient. I think that's one of the things that bogs us down. When we talk about time management, great tips to be able to put white space in your calendar. I have every morning, for about an hour before my work day starts, I have operations time blocked in my calendar. So the reality is I have it in my calendar for five days of the week. And I'm going to full disclosure here. I usually only actually use that time for operational time about 3 days a week. So there's 2 days a week that I just don't use it properly. And you know, I wish I did. I really, really wish I did, but things happen. Life happens, you know, and so I probably only use it 3 days a week, but those 3 days a week, I get so much done in that 1 hour of set out for operational time. And I actually have a little thing on my side wall here where I've got Post-it notes of like, what are the things that I want to get done during those operational hours, right? So that's actually, I mean, if I did it properly, you'd be looking at 5 hours a week for just tactical operation stuff. Right.
Yeah.
And so I might not get it 100%, but I certainly do it 3 days. And so that really helps to get those low hanging fruit, little things that you need to get done off your plate. So put that time aside too, that white space or that time blocking in your calendar, super, super helpful. And also, you know, often we'll put things in our calendar like, and I'm guilty of this too, like, you know, follow up or I just need to do sales calls. Well, I'd really recommend getting granular on that, right? Who are you going to follow up with? Like put the 5 people that you're going to follow up or put the 5 sales calls that you're going to make. Or, you know, if you need to send emails, well, put those in your notes, because then it's not just blocked. Then it's really like, in order to be successful at this, I've checked those things off, those particular contacts. And you want to be able to use that operation time in the beginning to plan that. Who are the people I want to call? Who are the connections I want to make? And so getting granular like that allows you to check it off. The reality is, Deepta, in a full day, we typically can only get 3 things done. That's normal. Like, you know, my to-do list is a huge to-do list, but we can usually only get 3 things done in a day. So pick those 3 things wisely, right? And have a plan around them. Have I talked your ear off? Have I talked everybody's ear off? I hope everybody's still with us. Go ahead and tell us in the chat. Tell us your thoughts. Give us your feedback. Let us know where you're from. And hey, if you're watching this live or if you're watching this replay, let us know either hashtag CX Live or hashtag CX Replay. We would love to know where you're coming from, where you're watching. And hey, if these tips are helpful, please let us know. But also, we'd love to know your best practices. How do you get more done with less time? What are some of the things that you implement and you action within your work environment? Go ahead and tell us in the chat. Leave us some feedback. And hey, if you're getting good information, please give us some algorithm love. A couple likes and hearts really go a long way when it comes to the social media algorithm. So please and thank you if it's helpful for you. Deepta, anything we missed?
Crystal, no, I just want to spend a couple more minutes actually on that time management piece. And I love the fact that you block things like operations in your calendar, especially since you're wearing so many hats as an entrepreneur and business owner. I would say that time blocking is probably one of the most helpful ways to really get productive and focus your energy. If you're putting that time aside in your calendar, whether it's weekly or daily, can make such a difference and really allows you to say no to other things in that period of time, right? Because we're always inundated with phone calls, emails, when you're in the office or in a retail location, you know, someone knocking on your door or coming up to you and asking a question impromptu. And having that time block really helps you really identify what you can say no to and what you can say yes to if it is a valid interruption.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I really like about the time blocking is that you have to also give yourself time. So I should do it more often, but I used to be really good at it. But if you're able to do this and if you have the discipline, you know, put in the time blocks. Actually, there's a girl I follow on Instagram, Laura. she's a self-care expert, and she's fantastic. And I wish I knew her Instagram tag offhand, but I will put it in the chat. But anyways, Laura is really great at talking about, self-care and how to really make sure that you're blocking that time for yourself, your lunches, your breaks, especially now that we're working from home so much. For me, I'm a morning person. I'm becoming a morning person. I have no choice but to be a morning person because I'm at my desk for so long. That this morning I started my morning super super early, and I'm able to really get those things done earlier in the morning than throughout my day, because I am kind of stuck during the day. But making sure that you're putting time in your day to do you, right? To do you, to maybe even I'm a Starbucks junkie. Most people know that I'm a bit of a Starbucks junkie, and so that's my treat. I will just leave for 15 minutes and I'll go for a drive to Starbucks and I'll get my pumpkin spice latte. And I'll do what I got to do because I just need that break. I just need that step away. I should put that in my calendar a little bit more often. I do, but not as much as I would like to. So those are things that for sure, if you're able to get that in your calendar, that self-care time, put it in, but then don't just block it off for like lunch. Put in what you're going to eat, what you're going to do. Like use that operations time to plan out how you're going to use the rest of your time. So that's really helpful as well. I'm just thinking there was one more thing that I wanted to mention, Deepta, about time management.
Mm-hmm.
I hear this often with, again, a lot of our clients or a lot of our colleagues, even in business, especially in the customer experience world. We're always up and, diving into the newest innovations and newest apps, the newest, organizational things. And there's so many of them out there. We're listening to podcasts about how to time manage. And the reality is there's so many of them out there. Like there's so many programs and digital ways that we can manage our time. And we use a couple of them. We definitely do. But for me, and again, you have to do what's good for you. But for me, I love my old fashioned paper and pen. Like there's something tactical about when you're writing it down and you're checking it off, and I use a green marker to highlight or a green marker to check it off. And that green for me is like success. I used to have a boss a long time ago that always used a red pen for things. And it just made me cringe when I saw the red, because it was like, even though it was a success, the red in my mind was like a negative, right? So I'm really intentional about how I write things down, how I check them off. I highlight it and then I check it. So it's a success. I've won. I got that thing done. But when it's on paper, for me personally, I'm able to really feel a little bit more it's quicker. It's quicker for me. But a lot of people, there's a lot of the automated and digital tools out there that are quite phenomenal. And if you've got the discipline to do it, find one tool though that works for you, and be careful not to get multiple tools. Some people have got like, there's just so many tools out there that you've got multiple to-do lists in multiple places. You want to stick to one that works for you. And there's no cookie cutter approach to this. You got to just find what resonates with you. We've got our calendar that we use, which is great. But that day-to-day tactical stuff, I've got it right in front of me today, right? It's like my pen and paper never leaves my side. So yeah, that's kind of old fashioned. Call me old fashioned, but
Crystal, I switched back to my paper calendar a year ago, and I love it. Yes. So my work schedule is still very much electronic, absolutely. But there are things that I don't necessarily want in my work calendar, like family birthdays or just little reminders about what needs to happen at home. And I find my paper calendar kind of keeps me grounded in all of those things, and I can take it with me wherever I go. Right, so it's not the kind that goes on the wall, and it just keeps me that little bit more organized on top of my digital calendar that I have for work.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. Is some people. So for me, my work is my life, right? So it's my work life calendar is one and the same. But I think it's important to like even identify that like you got to put it all in there so you have a good visual representation of everything, right? There was something I was trying to think of when I was telling you that. But
well, even when you have personal and work in the same calendar, what I normally do is I color code it.
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I know what the personal items are. I know what the business things are. I know what's urgent and I know what's due tomorrow. Right. And it's all color coded. And that really helps stay on top of what those priorities are to get things done.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right, my friend, let's kind of wrap it up here. I want to make sure that people are left with some great tools. At the end of the day, we want you to be able to get more done in 12 weeks than you do all year. And some of the ways you can do that. You know what? You want to be clear on your vision for your organization. That is a must. But when you're being clear on it, you want to take your team through that SWOT analysis that we talked about. Very typical process in a strategic planning process, but going through that SWOT with your entire team for a shorter period of time, not your typical 3 to 5 years, is really important. When we add in the customer experience twist to strategic planning, when we do with customers, we also do a good portion of customer and employee journey mapping, which we didn't touch about deep dive, but we can definitely talk on another time. If journey mapping is something that's of interest to you, my friends, go ahead and let us know and we'll connect and share some more info on that. But that is part of our plan when we do strategic planning, is not just to identify those big, hairy, audacious goals, but to really understand the journey that your customer and your employee are really going on. So you want to be able to really get clear on what those big goals are, would be step one. Step two would also be to get tactical on each one of those goals. So what are the hundreds of little things you need to get done? If training your team is one of your strategic planning goals, then what are the tactical things that need to get done? If hiring top talent, which seems to be the big thing for everybody right now, because there is a global shortage when it comes to labor. And so hiring top talent is one of those things. And, it's creating an attractive job posting, creating maybe your website needs to be updated. Maybe the process in which people apply need to be updated. Maybe your social media needs to be updated. Like, there's all those little tactical things that need to be documented. And then who's responsible for those? Not a department. Who's a person that's going to take that role on? What are the time, money, and resources that you're allotting to be able to get that goal done? And then, once you set the processes, you want to be able to consistently measure them and have those conversations. So we talked a little bit about the daily huddle, so that you're measuring your success and you can see everything in almost what we share with our clients is a report card fashion. So you can kind of see the success every day in every way, the progress that you're making. And that kind of really allows you to regain some control of your time. Right? When you're able to you're not doing everything. There's multiple people doing things. And it's a whole team kind of coming together. And so also using tools like the daily huddle to be able to remove some of those emails and the inefficiencies in our day-to-day, so that we can gain back a little bit of our time, so we can actually execute the things that we need to execute. I think I touched on everything. Did I miss anything, Deepta?
I think you got it all, Crystal. I'm sure there are lots more details if we wanted to, drive down into each element. But we'll just do that with more conversations on Fridays, live in the morning.
Sure. Exactly. So my friends, please stay tuned. We'll continue to come live to you every Friday morning from 10 to 11. So 11 to 12 o'clock Eastern time. Please go ahead and let us know in the chat if you're watching this on live or replay. So hashtag CX live, hashtag CX replay. And hey, please go ahead and share some of your best practices to get more done in 12 weeks than you can all year. But just even time management tips or efficiency tips would be great to see in the comments below. And so we can all use those efficiency and time management tips to be able to really move our businesses forward. So thanks so much for spending Friday morning with us. And we hope to see you next week. Deepta, thanks so much. Great conversation. Always love chatting with you.
Great to see you, Crystal, as always.
Take care, everyone. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Have a great weekend. Bye.